Stand tall. We are Valorant. We are fighters.
First-person shooters are some of the most high-octane, edge-of-your-seat games in all of esports. Whether it be the synchronized dance of an Overwatch League teamfight or a 360 no-scope in Call of Duty, the FPS genre has something to offer for everyone. But for those with a desire for more precise, mechanical gameplay, there has really only been one option: CounterStrike. For the better part of 2 decades, the CounterStrike series held a virtual monopoly on the subgenre of tactical shooters. It was widely argued that CounterStrike, which requires pinpoint accuracy, godlike reflexes, and a keen strategic mind, was the ultimate competitive shooter experience, one that might never meet its match.
It's also flashed off Eagle. Works though. Limited vision, limited weapons, doesn't even matter, dude! Free! Oh, the fourth as well! How sick is this round for him? And he's looking for the ace, the first ace!
But in the spring of 2020, Riot Games introduced Valorant, the tactical shooter that the world didn't even realize it was waiting for. Over the following month, Valorant would take the world, and Twitch, by storm.
Dude!
You're actually
Dude!
fucking high.
Oh my god.
I'm walking A main, Matt.
They have ult, he's lit. Dude, should he ult? There's 2 there. Nice, another one close right. No! Nice, one more! Full slap, this guy's lit. Let's go! Let's go! Good job. Let's go!
I was already like kind of bored and I didn't know what to play. But after playing Valorant, now I really, it makes it all worse because now I'm sitting here and I'm like, dude, I just played a gem and now I got to go back to trash.
With near record viewership and insane levels of fan engagement, the Valorant Closed Beta became one of the biggest events in Twitch history, while also becoming one of the platform's biggest targets for scams and view farming.
I went on Twitch, I went on the Valorant section, and I looked at the top 4 streams, and 3 of the top 4 were bots.
But how did this all happen? For that, we have to rewind back to the beginning, when Valorant was known simply as Project A. Project A's earliest inception came from the mind of 5 Riot employees, including game director Joe Ziegler, who had been tasked with creating the next big title. It started off humble at first, with group meetings being referred to as a kind of after-school project. Working before there was even a budget in place, this group of devs used their shared history to crack the secret sauce of what exactly makes a good shooter.
From like a concept standpoint, though, I think it really got started when we were all younger and playing, tactical shooters that we really liked, and that concept sort of, I think, bore that, sort of captured, like, at the time it sort of captured the magic of what the idea behind a game that sort of asks us to think a lot strategically instead of a shooter was, and thinking strategically about how we make decisions and how high impact they could be, and sort of how you had to outmaneuver in a chess-like way your enemy, and come up with that great result at the tail end. And so I think taking all that magic, that's sort of when the concept started, is when we began getting attached to that magic, and when we finally converged together at Riot is really sort of how we began thinking about that product.
With this foundation, Project A began to take shape. But Riot didn't want a clone of the tac shooters from the past. They wanted to offer something new to the genre. The team removed the usual utility found in similar games like flashbangs and smoke grenades, and converted them into character-specific ability kits. In October of 2019, Riot Games held its 10-year anniversary celebration, and announced to the world that it was no longer going to be a one-game company. They revealed a host of planned products, ranging from anime to fighting games. Fans were treated to their first glimpse of Project A in a video highlighting the gameplay, art style, and features of the upcoming title.
It became about, like, what do we talk about? Like, what do we say in that moment? What's important for players to understand about us before we're actually ready to take them on the journey? And we were definitely not ready to start explaining why we believed a tac shooter with characters with abilities was a good choice. Like, we just weren't there yet. Like, unless you experience the game, unless you get your hands on the game, it's a hard sell. And we knew it was going to be a hard sell, and we weren't sure we were going to be able to tell a comprehensive enough story to really sell what this game actually is. So we really chose to focus on the things we were going to do for players in this space and how we were going to improve their player experience. That's why we focused on things like netcode. That's why we focused on things like anti-cheat. It's why we focused on things like infrastructure and server tick rate, because we really wanted players to trust us to understand what they were asking for and what we would promise to deliver.
The response to the video was extremely positive, and hype for the game skyrocketed.
Wait!
But what does that really mean?
Riot is going to take over the goddamn
we're all tired
world!
Of seeing our bullets
and I'm already sitting at the top! Let's go!
We keep hearing.
Project A became the most highly anticipated competitive game in recent memory. After their announcement video, the dev team disappeared back into their work until March of 2020, when their game was finally given its true name, Valorant. Along with the name reveal came the first gameplay trailer, which allowed players to see the general structure and flow of a match. Comparisons to other games began almost immediately, with many calling Valorant CounterStrike, but with Overwatch characters.
Don't worry, loves. Cavalry's here.
The first gameplay trailer began raising doubts in various streamers and pros who worried about the balancing problems and visual clutter that came along with the ability system.
I don't like that shit where you just like, you go into things and you can't see anything. You're just in a green ball of nothing and you come out of it and then you can see the map. I'm not feeling that. I want to see the level, you know what I mean? I don't want to be walking around in nothing.
While some were quick to criticize, others took a more wait-and-see approach, wanting to play the game before casting their judgment. For the first time since the announcement, hype for the game began to dip. Riot did have plans to get influencers playing Valorant a month later, but modified them last minute thanks to the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic. 10 days after the gameplay announcement, Riot employees were sent to work from home, and all the live events planned for the launch had to be scrapped or reworked. Originally, Riot had planned 2 different influencer live events, one in Los Angeles and one in Barcelona, Spain, which would each host around 100 influencers. But thanks to the pandemic, things went a little differently.
So in the end of the day, you know, we had to cancel both events. That was a pretty large investment that we had made to try to really present this game in a positive light in person. But, you know, we didn't want to put anybody at risk for getting sick. So we basically had to pivot to a 100% online event, which I had never done in the history of my career. I was pretty scared, to be honest, because there were so many unknowns, right? We didn't know if we had like, you know, the benefit of the whole thing was that we could kind of cast our net a bit wider. You know, if it was an online event, we didn't have to limit ourselves to the space of a venue. So we were able to kind of cast that net a bit wider and had about 500 people, press and influencers. So I was like, man, I just hope that we can do this right.
The new version of the Influencer Bootcamp came together as a remote weekend full of Zoom presentations and gameplay, with streamers and pros from virtually every FPS scene. As invites started being sent out, hype for the game began to swell once again, with streamers and content creators from all over the world clamoring to be included in the event. And all this hype was generated without a single payout to a streamer. Unlike other high-profile launches, such as Apex Legends, the Valorant team made the decision not to pay any streamer to broadcast their game, preferring to let the title speak for itself and grow organically. Riot tied its closed beta access to Valorant streams, ensuring that beta key recipients were interested and engaged with the content already.
We took a million risks at that time, I would say, you know, more than anything. We kind of threw out a lot of the playbook elements. We for example, we brought together streamers purely of their own volition. We didn't pay any of them, and as a result, you know, what we wanted was honest reactions to our game, because we really wanted to feel confident that, you know, if they saw it and they didn't like it, they could talk about that. If they saw it and they did like it, they would be able to talk about that, because it would steer their audiences, you know, towards whether or not they would like that game or not, because they have affinity with the types of games that person plays. And so for us, it was about finding the right players, and those players could have come from anywhere, not trying to convince people that they should play the game if they don't like it. You know, it was very much built around this idea of like, let's create an honest engagement with our audience and ensure that the people who are coming in are very excited about it and people are getting keys are excited about playing this game.
On April 3rd, all the streamers involved in the bootcamp began broadcasting their pre-recorded footage, showing off the game to a collective audience of more than 1 million Twitch viewers. Paired with this, Twitch Rivals hosted the Valorant Showcase, a tournament designed to highlight the game's potential as an esport on day one, making it an inextricable part of Valorant's identity.
Enough of our faces, let's watch some gameplay. Let's get into some Valorant. I believe we are going to start on someone playing Sova, so we should get to see a little bit of this bolt action. Obviously, I feel like the strat here is send out the recon bolt, see where the players are, and then ult onto them. How does acquiring an ult work in this game?
By the end of the broadcasts, Valorant had broken the Twitch single-day viewership record with 12.2 million hours watched, tens of thousands of beta keys distributed, and hype for the game at an all-time high. The stage was set, and less than a week later, Riot opened its servers for the Valorant Closed Beta. And that's when Twitch just about exploded. On April 7th, the Valorant Closed Beta officially began, and all the hype from the previous showcase began to pay off. Well, that, and the fact that most countries, including the US, had gone into full lockdown thanks to the global pandemic.
Fast-breaking developments in the coronavirus emergency in the US and around the world. The number of cases soaring just today, more than 24,000 now nationwide.
While this was of course a bleak time for those affected, the lockdown ensured that there were millions of potential players sitting at home with nothing better to do than tune in for a chance to grab one of the ever-elusive beta keys.
She's slowed though, she's slowed. Already on site.
Woo! She's right in my face!
I'm going back on the
planning. You're good. You're good.
Raise this one.
And tune in they did. Within the first day of the closed beta, Valorant shattered the record they had set not even a week prior, eclipsing their previous viewership hours by a whopping 22 million and hitting a peak viewership of over 1.7 million. The whole world seemed to be responding to the beta. It was the #1 search topic on Google and was trending all over social media. But with popularity comes scrutiny, and soon the cracks in the beta system started to show. Specifically, the severe lack of beta keys being released. It seemed like no one was getting their hands on keys, and soon, the memes started flowing like water. Within a day of the closed beta launch, Riot released a statement acknowledging this deficiency, but holding fast to their commitment to, quote, support a stable, competitive, high-fidelity gameplay experience above all, even if that means limiting the number of people we can support for now. But in trying to keep the gameplay of Valorant competitive, Riot spawned a whole new form of competition, a race to see who could get the small number of available keys first. Very quickly, viewers resorted to all kinds of tactics and tricks to find their way into the game. It wasn't uncommon for viewers to leave multiple streams running at once just for the minute chance of receiving a key drop. And the prevalence of bots attempting to farm keys made sure that the odds of getting one remained small. Streamers weren't afraid to capitalize on this, and it wasn't long before some decided to broadcast VODs 24/7, keeping their channel open for business to those hoping to game the system.
For multiple days, Anomaly streamed over 300 hours of supposed VOD highlights. But sadly, Anomaly wasn't the first and certainly not the last. Dozens of other streamers began doing the same thing, playing literal reruns around the clock, all while farming viewership and ad revenue for doing absolutely nothing.
You know, like I'll be super. There's no point not being honest about that. Like it was frustrating in that moment to see players posting on Twitter, players who wanted in and couldn't get in, right? Because that's who was upset. Players who wanted to get in couldn't get in and thought that it was unfair that they couldn't get in because of bots, and it was unfair that streamers were just we had kind of picked a very specific set of streamers, and certain streamers were leaving their streams on all night, and all, like that was something that we ourselves were frustrated by. We weren't like, yay, look at that. Like that was making us also not look great in this moment where we were again trying to prove readiness, trying to prove earn credibility, trying to get trust from our players in that moment. And when all those things were happening, and a lot of them were out of our control, all we would do is talk about what we could do about it.
Riot had previously stated that key drops would be random, but viewers with more time watched would have a slightly higher chance than others. While they went on to say that there were diminishing returns for viewing hours past a certain threshold, this did little to deter the hordes of eager fans who wanted nothing more than to click heads with the best of them. Many streamers, large and small, would give advice and tips on how to increase your chances to get a key. Tips like leaving the stream on with the volume up, and periodically checking your watch time and chat to make the algorithm see you as an active viewer. While none of these strats were confirmed to have worked and most likely did nothing, they became a kind of gaming urban legend for a time.
The next thing you need to do is, I notice a lot of people aren't watching with sound, okay? Or I see other people that are like, dude, like, I have like 50 streams pulled up. I must have watched like 500 hours in the last 2 days. How do I not have a key? This is bullshit. They're lying. There's no keys. And they send me a screenshot, and it's like 500 tabs of Valorant streamers.
It didn't matter how many times it was disproven. Desperate players just wanted so much to believe. This manipulation of the desperate masses sent shockwaves throughout the Twitch ecosystem, affecting anyone attempting to stream the game and driving top streamers insane.
Hey guys, I just want to make a quick video and talk about something that I've been seeing a lot recently and I think needs to stop. That is that I went on Twitch, I went on the Valorant section, and I looked at the top 4 streams, and 3 of the top 4 were bots. Today, I want to explain why I think that's bad for Twitch, why I think that's bad from a pragmatic, common sense perspective, and also why I think it's already against the TOS, and just for some reason Twitch hasn't done anything about it.
In a post on Twitter, streamer High Distortion spoke to the problem, stating, quote, "You know it's an issue when new viewers ask, is this a 24/7 stream or is this live? Both answers to this question should be obvious on Twitch, a live streaming platform. To address this, Riot soon began to increase the amount of key drops and took steps with Twitch to crack down on these predatory, mislabeled streams."
And I think at the beginning, we're just like, okay, we gotta be really conservative here. And then everybody was just like, yeah, we need to play. So I remember there was this moment where we're like, okay, we need to really dial up how many of these beta keys we're dropping, because, I mean, we have the space. We just need to make sure that the whole point of a beta is to, you know, stress test this game. If we're going to be launching in, what, a month and a half, we need to make sure the thing works, right? So I remember there was just a moment where, you know, I was working with a team and just like dialing up streamer by streamer, you know, how many keys that we would be able to essentially give away. So it was a pretty tedious exercise in figuring out, you know, what we could do. But at the end of the day, we just kind of increased the volume, and then we got pretty much anybody who was super intent on getting into this game, we got into the game at that time.
With the biggest of its hurdles behind it, Valorant's closed beta barreled forward uninhibited. By the time it came to an end in late May, the beta had racked up an average of 3 million daily players and almost 500 million hours watched on Twitch. Its peak viewership came second only to Riot's other game, League of Legends, and most importantly, found the core audience that would stick with it after launch. With their previously announced launch window of summer 2020, many expected the full launch to come months after the end of the beta. But in a final surprise, Riot announced that Valorant would be coming a mere week later on June 2nd.
Earlier this year, when we revealed Valorant, we also announced a very aspirational launch date of summer 2020.
And we've been wanting to get you this game to help brighten these tough times. But as it turns out, we're not going to be launching this game in a few months.
Because we're launching it in a few weeks.
Since its launch last year, Valorant hasn't pulled in the same numbers as that first month of the beta, but it has stabilized into a viewership that keeps it near the top of the Twitch charts. Despite its inability to host LAN tournaments, Valorant has become an instant staple in the esports scene, with average viewership increasing significantly since the start of its pro circuit, the Valorant Championship Tour.
Is poor for Chihuahua. Zeke had looked away, but Pith was still looking, but that's where Korea comes in to win the round. TP goes across. He's trying to get away. There's the paranoia. It hits. It does damage. He knows exactly where this player is, and the chances of winning that round just fade away completely.
The future of Valorant looks bright and full of hype Twitch moments to come, but its past can be seen as an inspiration and a cautionary tale. Riot may have broken the mold when it comes to game distribution, but they also succeeded in breaking Twitch. With many more properties to come in the future, it's only a matter of time before the next big closed beta and the potential chaos and fun that follows.